Module 5, Test-Driven Development. So in this module, we will discuss these topic, TDD, fundamentals, what is test-driven development and the agile testing. So test-driven development, fundamentals. So what is test-driven development? We will try to look into details of test-driven development. So test-driven development refers to a style of programming in which there are three basic activities which are tightly interwoven. These activities are coding, testing, and designing. So coding, as we start doing the first thing, but then as a part of test-driven development, we focus first on writing unit test. Similarly, design. So in the design phase, we always try to look how we can refactor the existing code to best fit the requirements. So as call, it can be succinctly described by following these set of rules. We first write a unit test. So in a test-driven development, we don't start with coding. We first write a single unit test describing the aspect of program which we want to test. So the unit test is first written across. So once we have written the unit test, we run the unit test, which will bound to fail because there is no piece of program which has been written at that point in time. So the unit test which you have run should fail because the program lacks that feature. So once the unit test fails, the next step is we write just enough code in the simplest possible way to make the unit test pass. So first we have written the unit test, then we have run the unit test, which will fail because there's no piece of code. Then we write a simplest piece of code to make the unit test pass. So once that is done, the next step, which is the fourth step, is to refactor the code. So the refactoring of code needs to happen until it conforms to the requirement criteria of simplicity. So all the codes which are there should be refactored and needs to be ensured that they are conforming the requirements of simplicity. So once you have refactored the code, we need to repeat the whole process. We need to accumulate the unit tests over a period of time. So the whole process has to be repeated so that it become a sustainable process. Starting with creation of unit test, to running the unit test, writing the piece of code, refactoring the code, and repeating. These are the four main cycles. So we have discussed what is test-driven development. So now let's talk about what is unit testing. So unit testing is a concept in which we test the smallest piece of code, smallest piece of source code, and these are tested individually so that you can validate those pieces. These piece of codes should work as they were expected to work. And the first level of testing we call unit testing as the first level of testing, which basically either pass or fails. So this is executed prior to the integrated stage testing. So unit testing is the fundamental elementary way of testing your code at the smallest level. So that's how unit testing is one of the important testing capability to be done. So talking about the examples of unit testing and some of the principles, practices, and the patterns. So if you refer to the patterns or principle, whenever you are using the unit testing, you should always think of following the first as a principle.